Okay. Hey, everybody. Super excited to have my California people in the house tonight. Thank you, Claudia and
Woo
Sonia, for coming.
woo.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, super
Yes.
excited. It's early your time. It's 5 o'clock my time, but it's what, 2 o'clock your time?
Yeah, 2 o'clock.
Say thanks for spending the afternoon with me. And we're,
Thanks.
yeah, talking about buyer strategies and the best way to help your buyers.
Cool.
Say
Nice.
fabulous. So, who wants to start off the conversation?
I
I can
guess
start
I'll
off.
start. I mean, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Claudia. Take it away.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about first of all, thanks for having us on your show.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah, and let
excited.
yeah, and
Uh-huh.
super. And Claudia and I were on at R4 at a Remax conference, and we were on stage giving a presentation together. So super excited to have you back,
Yeah.
Sonia. Now,
Yeah,
Sonia,
we did
Claudia.
the social media social media practices. Actually, now that I think about it, Sonia actually is the one that referred me to that because Sonia, you weren't able to make it, right?
Yeah,
The
Ah,
one?
we're unfortunate. Yeah, I got a call to be actually on two panels, but unfortunately I
Yeah.
couldn't make it. I had to have surgery, so I wasn't going to be able to make it to R4. But yeah, I was able to drop a few names, and they took two of you, so I was really happy about that.
Awesome,
awesome.
awesome. Thank you. Cool. And then Sonia and I actually met at R4. We were trying to think of when. I think it was in 2018. Hey there,
18, I
John.
think so.
I think it was 2018. Yeah, that's when we met. And it's so funny because I think I just posted like somewhere on like the R4 app, like, hey, anybody from California want to meet up? And she's like, me. And so we were at the award ceremony and we're like, hey, how are you? And so we become good friends. And she's awesome on social media, by the way. She
Yeah.
does all the things. Like, there's some things that, hey, Don, there's some things that I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then I'm like, oh, and you get in your head. Monica's like, she's a doer.
Yeah.
She's a doer. She just like gets it done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, how do you do all the things? I don't know. And she's a broker owner, so she's awesome. And you cover Southern California, like
Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Orange counties.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and she's actually helped my family sell their house in that area too. So she's an awesome partner.
I love the connection.
I know, right?
And then
yeah. And I wanted to introduce you to her because you guys we're all boss babes. So here we are.
Well, fabulous. Cool. So back to buyer consultations.
Yes.
Buyer success meetings. So tell us what do you do for your buyers, Claudia?
Yeah. So in my experience, I found that when I just like started hitting the ground running and started going out and looking at homes, that they're like, hey, I want to look at a home here and there. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I was doing a lot of backtracking and I was doing a lot of like educating after the fact instead of preparing my clients. And so I started actually during COVID, I put together like this PowerPoint presentation with just like all the things that I say over and over. And it's an ever evolving document. So I'm always like adding to it, taking away, trying to make it better. And as things change in our profession, adding things to it. And then out of that, I'm like, obviously people can't retain everything. Right. So sometimes I meet with people on Zoom, sometimes in person. If I meet with them in person, I put it up on a TV. Usually if I meet them at the office, all my offices have TVs that I can share. And it's usually about 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes if people have a lot of questions, it's usually more. But I just felt that I wanted to, number one, get to know them better so that I could better help them. And then I want them to get to know me because, all of my clients are referred to me. And of course they're referred and people tell them a lot of great things, but I'm like, okay, but let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you why I'm so excited to help you and that, how qualified I am to help you. And also it helps me to get to know them because as I'm looking for homes, I want to know what kind of home they're looking for. I want to know, what they like and don't like and all those things. So it's kind of like my checklist of things like, oh, I don't want to forget to, mention this and that. And then I always print them out a buyer guide as well, which is different from what I show on the screen. But, sometimes people they learn by seeing, they learn by, seeing it again, they can go back and print out the PDF as well. But I set it up on a drip campaign too, like every other day or every 2 days of some of the slides in my presentation, because it's super important for them to kind of see it again. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so then I just confirm, like after that I have, okay, well, when do you want to look at homes, or I get them set up with the lender. So it's just like a visual checklist for me.
Do you want me to share this one that you have ready? Are you ready to share it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can bring it up. So this is a, well, actually, let's go to the first slide. How do I go to the first slide? Here it is. So this is on my website. There's 3 different not presentations, but PDFs for people to choose from. And this is one of them. This is for a buyer. There's one for a first-time home buyer as well. And then there's one for a seller. And they can instantly download this, and it just talks about different things, about the home buying process. Sometimes people like to have something printed, so I print it out nicely for them. And they're also able to get it electronically. So this I find is very helpful because, if anything, it just gives them something to reference, and it's branded to me at the end, and it's constantly updated too. And this is from Keeping Current Matters.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Can I show you one that we do?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. Here, let's see here. It's going to take me a second.
You've got a lot of good stuff.
It's going to take me a second to get it brought up here. Hold on. Let's see here. I've got a couple, but this is one that we do that's very similar. And I got to figure out how to find it down here. Sorry. That's very similar, but sorry, I'm going through like 4 different things I have up on my screen. I have to find this one. Sorry. Well, okay. Oh, I see it. Where the hell is
I have another one that I was looking for too that I can show in the meantime while you find it.
Yes, here. Let me. Girl, now I've lost y'all. Goodness gracious. I'm having a minute.
All good.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
I will. Okay. I will bring that back up in just a second. Yes. Please show us, Claudia.
So one of the pages in my slide that it's called the Buyer's Roadmap. I don't know if you have it there. Let's see. How do I?
Oh, here. Which one? Buyer's Roadmap. I have that.
Yeah,
one.
I just added
This
it.
one?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is one of those slides in the presentation that I tell them, if I show you nothing else and if you retain nothing else, this is like the very expensive roadmap of buying a home.
Yes.
So I kind of walk them through that process, because I always ask people, like, have you bought a home in the past or not? And they're like, yeah, but it was like, 10 years ago, or no, never, or I've heard a lot of things, or I did, but it didn't work out. And so I kind of want to know where they're at with things, because sometimes people are like, oh yeah, no, I've done this. Okay, cool. Well, here it is in case you want to refer back to it. And sometimes I go into detail. So sometimes, yeah. So this is something I got from, I'm trying to remember where I got it from. I didn't make this up. My presentation is like a hodgepodge.
I can't think of what it's called, but it's
I know,
called
I can't either.
Broker something.
Yeah. And they changed the way it looks, but I like the way this looks because I'm a visual person. So I like sharing this with people. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did find mine. Is that okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Bring it up.
Sorry. Now that I finally found it. Let's see here. Here we go. So when you get there, it goes through the, but it does go through the buying process, and it talks about buyer representation, getting pre-approved. And all of these are kind of different chapters throughout it. But then it goes through like why you need representation and why you should choose us, and some things that we do. So it goes into our experience, our negotiation skills. Everybody on my team is has gotten the certificate as being an expert negotiator, as well as just being from the area and knowing the area, knowing the ins and outs of the homes, the neighborhoods, the school district, the loans, everything. And then it goes again into why you want buyer representation. And then our team, from the mortgage person to everybody, closing process, attorney, lender, title company, closing attorneys, and then what you need to get pre-approved. But it's pretty extensive. I won't bore y'all with all of that. But that is one thing that we do during our buyer consultations. which is very, helpful and intuitive. And then I have one more thing to show you guys that has been really a game changer for me, is getting buyers. So when I meet with them, the end of the day, what I want to know from them is this. It is everything about them, their personal information, children, significant others, but it goes into what are they looking for? What is it? Do they like to entertain? What is their lifestyle? What do they like to do? School districts, zip codes, what's in neighborhoods, what's important, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, specific types of homes, as well as, are they currently renting? Do they currently own? Do they have to sell? Are they pre-qualified? All the things that we need to know as real estate agents to do a really good job for our buyers, right? And then every buyer has like the must-haves and the wants. So it's good to have them separate those out, because then they can start saying, and it's always interesting because they'll come back and say, oh, I know I said it was a must-have, but let's move it to a want. Or I knew I said it was a want, but I've decided it's a must-have. But it's a good, it's good to have those conversations and know what you're looking for. And it helps them kind of zone in on what they're looking for.
So do you send it to them on PDF, or do you send it to them electronically, or
I
if there's more than one
in
person?
I fill it out. Out in
person.
Mm-hmm. And
how long does that take though? Because I feel like I've tried that before.
5 minutes.
Huh.
Really, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I mean, I kind of go through. Now that's just on what they want. What is it you want? And then I go through. I mean, because the first time I did it, they were like, why the hell do you want all this information? But after I learned how to explain it better, and explain it is like, I'm trying to help you. And how can I help you if I don't have all this information? They're an open book. And sometimes I don't give it all. They'll give me as much as they can. But sometimes at the very end, those lists, they recreate the list throughout the process. So it's
of course. Yeah, so you get like all their details and everything up front. Because I've tried it a couple of ways. I do hear what you're saying though about one time I tried to do it in person, and they were like, why do you want to know like my favorite coffee shop? And I'm like, because I like loving on my people and I want to know where to get you coffee from. Like I had one lady she's like, she only liked Pete's Coffee. And I was like, okay. So then I made sure that whenever we went out to look at homes, hey, what kind of Pete's Coffee do you want? Because I usually go to Starbucks. I'm like, what's your Starbucks order? And I'm like, oh, what's your pizza order? So some people are particular about that. So
that's exactly right. Right. So Sonia, tell me about you. What do you do?
So, a very, a lot similar to, to what you guys do. Definitely, I try to take the time of the buyer's, consultation, and it's more of a strategy session. And when I talk to them on the phone, I tell them, I want to make sure that I'm the right fit for you. And when they feel they have a choice, I think they come in a lot more open-minded.
That's right.
And I do, before I actually sit with them, their receptionist will give them, I have a clipboard with, asking questions. If they'll leave it blank if they're not sure, or like you said, if maybe they're like, okay,
why the hell does she want to know?
But for the most part, I think if they see that it's part of it, I don't think they question it as much. So I don't really get too much, pushback on it. So by the time I go in there, I'm able to review it with them, talking to them about it. And what I love about it is when they come in, their needs and their wants, by the time we're done, they change.
That's exactly right. That's kind of fun to watch too.
Because a lot of times they don't think about it, and it gives them the whole time that you're there talking to them. Okay, well, do we actually have to do that? And you know what? We never considered that area, but you know what? We're thinking of this. So I think it's great to always start off with that.
That's right. But it always evolves.
Exactly. Because we don't know nothing about them. And a lot of times they're watching, all these TV shows that they think it's possible, and they don't realize sometimes we got to start here to get here. Right. So I think it's all great, just so you know where everybody's at. And it kind of tells me, actually, to be honest, how much I need to sway a certain way or lean towards educating this way, based off, whatever their answers are. So I definitely think that's great to start off with. And then typically what I do is, like I was mentioning to you earlier, if I try to give as much education as possible, because I don't ever want them to walk out of here and you already know they're excited and they can't wait. So they start telling everybody and their mother, as they say, how they're, they spoke to an agent, and everybody knows an agent, right? So they're like, well, did she tell you this? Did she tell you that? And if they felt that I didn't, they might have pushback towards me and feel like, well, what else didn't she tell us? So I really over-educate. Sometimes I give a lot of information. But I think, and a lot of it, I tell them, like I was showing you guys, I give them this booklet, has a lot of information, and I tell them it may seem overwhelming, but this is something you can refer to at night when we are going through the process and we get to that chapter. You can refer to it as well. I'm huge on video. So
she's really good on video. Like,
I love doing videos. I just think it's more, personal. So I do have a buyer series where it's like, what happens when I find a home? So when they tell me, hey, Sonia, I want to write an offer, I'll send them that video so they can watch it. And it just reminds them of what's important when we're writing that offer. So I'm really big on it, because I just feel like sometimes if I'm talking to them, they might be thinking, oh, I want to ask her this. Oh, I want to ask her this. So they're not really paying 100% attention. But I know if they watch the video, then I know that at least they can pause it or go back or whatever. And hear that.
I would love to see your video series. I do. I have like 6 videos. I have some on things because we're very different in North Carolina. We've got a due diligence fee, which I think only 2 other states have. I know Texas has something similar, and Florida has something similar. They call it an option fee, but no other state has it, where it is non-refundable. So I have one on due diligence versus earnest money. I do have some, but I want to see your series because I need to add more, and I always get stumped on what do I need to add to it. So I'd love, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to share.
An example. That's an example of something that I've been like wanting to do, but Sonia's like, of course she did it because she's awesome.
I just think, like she said, I'm a do person, and I just think because if I don't do it, it's never going to happen. So I'm in the moment type of person. So I do.
She's inspired me to just do it, because sometimes I'm like, I get, what is it called, analysis paralysis, and
I don't think everybody does that, right?
I know.
There's something that always is more important, or you don't feel good, or you don't look good, or you don't have the right makeup or their outfit, or at the end of the day.
Well, that's another thing. So I use I have an avatar, an AI avatar, which it's not me. I mean, it's me, but it's not me. So I just simply have to record because so it has my voice. But I look great every time. So that's also that's also, I think I highly recommend that. I do a Monday market update every Monday. And in order for me to make sure that it's on time, that's what I use. And so I look the same on every video.
Well, how do you get an AR avatar?
So
that's a whole different.
That's a whole different thing. But there's an app that you use, and like I said, we can do another show, and I'll be happy to share it.
Yeah, we've been trying to meet up on that, right, Sonia? And it just it's gonna happen.
I think video is a huge thing. Everything's going to video, So it is a great way. And like I said, if you can incorporate videos into your presentations, and then even when they leave, I'm huge. I use Bonbon. I don't know if you guys use Bonbon. KV4 has their own messenger built into it, but I use Bonbon, and I love it because I can see they'll like the video, or I can see how many times they watch it go back. So I do put stuff in my YouTube channel, but I also, when I'm sending it individually, I'll send it through Bonbon just so I can make sure that it's embedded in the email and not a link.
No,
I love that too. I love Bonbon too. It's just so helpful, especially like the things that we say over and over, right? Like, okay, now we're in escrow, this is what happens, or get your insurance, quote, like right away. We don't want that to hold things up. So I struggled, but I have a little drip campaign that I send afterwards too. And honestly, like, I find that sometimes I can tell if someone's paying attention or how overwhelmed they are, because after our strategy session, they'll ask me some questions, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, we went over that, but I'm like, okay, I'm glad that they're asking me, because I want to make sure that they know, it just validates the fact that, like, I have to tell them over video or in person, print it, email it, all the things. So
we have on that end of it, we have orchestrated, my daughter helped me do a whole closing process. So she has been my closing coordinator and has moved up to team manager, but she was in that position for 9 years. So we have like that part is perfected. Like they have the emails that go out to remind them every step of the way, but I want to add the videos. And I do have a lot of videos. But I don't have a video for each step of the process, which I need.
Yeah.
I do see the importance of that. And I think that is a great idea. So don't forget to share it with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to share it.
Yeah. No, and I think they appreciate it. You know, even after closing, you know, we send a closing video, and then, you know, we kind of every 6 months we're kind of touching base, if not sooner, depending on your relationship with the buyer, because sometimes it's a lot more, you know.
Yeah. And we have 4 to 6 parties throughout the year. So we are always in contact with them. But we do, I mean, we call the day of closing, obviously, and then a week, and then 30 days, then 90 days, and then, you know, and then all the parties. So that's all fabulous. No, I think that's really good. And you know, as far as buyer consultation and buyer strategies and why buyers need us, I mean, I always call myself a matchmaker. I am a matchmaker for a lot of different reasons. I am going to find you the home. I'm going to find you the school district. I'm going to find you your favorite restaurant. I'm going to find you a doctor, a nurse, a dog walker, a moving company, a painter, an electrician, whatever you need. And I think that our job as real estate agents, it is very important. The negotiation is very important. It's very important to educate them. It's through the process is super important. But I also think the general public needs to know that it is, for at least for me, I don't stop the day of closing. Like I continue. I literally had somebody text me 5 minutes ago that said, "Hey, Jennifer, I need a dentist. Do you have one I can recommend?" Send her my dentist's cell phone number. She's like, "Oh, thank you. I got an appointment tomorrow. Thanks for that." I mean, you know, it's like, it goes far, far more than just the transaction, which is super important too. But I think that's why you need an agent with experience, with knowledge, with, you know, they can help you through the process, but also it's more than that.
Yeah. And I think also, to be honest with you, I mean, I call them buyer strategy sessions now because it's really, we're strategizing, we're getting to know each other. And I tell them up front, like, this is a time for you to get to know me and me to get to know you to see if we both want to work together, because we may not be a good fit, and that's okay.
And that goes both ways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I might not want to work with them either.
Right. And you can kind of gauge that throughout the process. You know? And I tell them, I'm like, I can't work with everybody, so I'm very thankfully people are referred to me, and then if it's a good match, then we'll work together, and if it's not, totally fine as well. But I think now more than ever is important to kind of articulate your value, and I found that when, you know, so because sometimes it gets busy, right? It gets the market picks up, and you're just like, ah! And you know, when I found that if I don't take the time to sit down and get to know the buyers, it's not as smooth. And if I'm here to provide white glove 5-star service, I have to take a minute to sit down and do this, whether it's in person or on Zoom. And honestly, most people like it on Zoom, and I try to always do it with all the parties involved, and sometimes it's easier to do it on Zoom, but I find, you know, either way, it's like, if I don't do it, I know I'm like, oh, I showed them a house and I didn't do it. I have to do this. And I've had people that text me and I'm like, "Hey, Claudia, I'm going to refer you so-and-so. Can you do that thing with them, like on the Zoom, and show them all the things?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh, sure." You know, and I tell session. Yeah. And I tell them up front, I'm like, "Listen, guys, I know this is like a PowerPoint thing, and it's like, it's cheesy. I know, but like, hear me out, because I just want you to know all the things and be your resource." And they like it. So
they're super smart.
Yeah. And our RE/MAX school just came up with a new buyer consultation presentation. So I'm going to be looking at that and like taking pieces from that and adding stuff. So.
And I'll share mine with you too. If you take anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All the things.
Yeah. Take what you need.
Cool.
I think the buyers are excited about it, because you're basically telling them you want to set them up for success. You know, you want to set all the expectations. You want, you know, there to be understandings. Because I know when I first started, sometimes I would forget to tell them it's going to cost them to do a home inspection and stuff like that. So we're there, and they're like, "Oh, who's paying?" And they're like, I'm like, "Oh, you're paying." You know, these are like, you know, mistakes you make, you know, when you're starting, because you don't know and you think they know. But, you know, you learn really quickly that they don't know. And even if you tell them 5 times, you might have to tell them 6, you know, so it's just constantly
and that's okay.
Them.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But, and even the ones that think they know, I mean, the average person, unless you're an investor, you might buy, 2 or 3 houses, 4 houses, 5 houses,
Mm-hmm.
in your lifetime, maybe even 10 if you're
Right.
old enough, you know. But
Well,
that's,
also different
it's like
states
every
have
5 years
different,
when it changes.
yeah,
Oh, I
different
know.
states. Like I've had people. Mm-hmm.
I'm having to, I mean, we get updates every single July. Every July, something major changes. So the general public, I don't care how often, unless you're an investor, buy a house, you still don't know the current
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, it's super important. What we're saying, Claudia, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying that I've had people that have bought other homes, but are moving here from other states. And it's so different. Like
Oh,
some states don't have, title companies. They use attorneys and, all those things. So trying to explain the different terminology is, a good lesson as well. So
yes. I know I have a client right now coming from New York, and I was on the phone
yeah, New
with
York, I
their
was thinking about
agent,
that.
and we are so different. At least North Carolina is so vastly different than New York.
Yeah.
And finally, the agent called me, like we're in this group text. So I'm like, wait a second, you're comparing me to New York. We're not New York. These are all the differences. And it was funny because the agent called me and was like, what? Huh? I'm super confused. And I'm like,
They have this on or about date, which is like really
yeah,
weird.
not only that, not only on or about, they also have, you can verbally negotiate an offer. Right? You get all your inspections done before anything's signed. You get everything done for anything signed. An attorney actually drafts it for everybody to sign. So in the meantime, you can have spent your money on inspections and whatever, and another buyer can come in and it can be accepted.
Yeah.
It's not like that in North Carolina. North Carolina, we use a standard offer to purchase contract. Everybody signs it. An attorney doesn't get involved until the end.
Yeah.
It's all negotiated. Signed. If you're under contract, you're not going to accept somebody else's offer. I mean, you can do a backup offer, but yeah, it's just a huge learning curve. But it's important to know that. And that's why it's good to get to know agents from across the United States, because then you could say, hey, wait, we're different than California. Let me tell you why. And meantime, I'm going to call you girls who be like, wow, the hell are we different?
Well, another thing I was going to say is for us realtors, when I am referring another realtor, I ask them, I'm like, so when you meet with a buyer, like, what is your process? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll just start looking at homes. I'm like, okay, well, do you like meet with them? Do you have, and if they're like, we don't even do any of this that we're talking about. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Cause
you're not setting them up for success.
Yeah. So I make sure that everybody that I refer is like on the same level or, because I want to make sure that they're taken care of. Like I had a, not that I had a bad experience, but I just had somebody that I was like, Claudia, we didn't even know like where to get our keys. And, like when you sold us a house, it was this whole thing. And we did like, we had champagne and we had balloons and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm a little extra on that. And I said, I'm sorry you had to pick up your keys from their office. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know, so just little things like that. So
yeah, I think that's really important. And it's really important, you're right, to make sure you choose good referral partners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Jody just popped in.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, if anybody has any questions or wants our resources, definitely hit us up because we're willing to share. And I've learned a lot from these ladies. You guys are awesome.
Yes,
happy to have you in my circle.
It's a pleasure. Cool. And Sonia, I finally got to meet you, so it's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Likewise.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we just, like I said, more than anything is finding the fit, because we as agents, we get excited when we get, a new buyer. But a lot of times this actually helps us as well, because we're able to weed out, who's a now buyer, who's a later buyer, who's not gonna be a buyer, or like you said, who's a buyer we choose not to work with. Maybe we're not a fit, and that's okay. And then maybe, not doing a disservice, to them as well. So I think this is so important. It really is. I know a lot of agents today still, the minute they get a lead, they're like, okay, what house do I meet you at? And they're showing and showing and showing. And they're wondering why, a month or two has gone by and they have no success. And they always ask, how do you get your clients into escrow? How? And it all boils down to this appointment, getting to know, everything about them, how serious they are, how committed they are, what's going to stop them, and it's not that any of it is bad. It's just knowing, because that the conversation, the communication is everything. And some agents are afraid to have those conversations, but they're the conversations that have to take place in order for you to succeed. That way you can put your energy into something else if this is just not going to work, for you. So that's why it's important to do.
And you know what I've done to help me is sometimes when I do find myself like just going out somewhere and showing them, I have the presentation on my iPad. So afterwards we'll like, hey, you know what, let's just go to this coffee shop real quick. I just want to show you something so that we don't, I would tell them, I want you to get the full experience, which I do. I want them to get the full like VIP treatment. So
yeah, absolutely. Now I think, it's super important to have those conversations and to be confident enough to have those conversations. If you can't have those conversations up front with the buyer, how are you going to represent them?
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, you have to have those, I remember the first time, and it was probably 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, a friend of mine's sister was moved from New York, was moved into Wilmington, and she was a cash buyer and up to $1 million. And I had the hardest time asking her for not a pre-approval, for proof of funds. But you have to do it. But it was like my best friend's sister. So it was an odd conversation. But I asked her, and she was like, I actually had two people on the same day. And it was interesting because both of them were like, oh, yeah, here it is. And we're definitely going to work with you because nobody else has asked us that. And of course, you need to know. At first, she was like, well, of course,
something so simple, right?
And I was like, of course you could buy. I know you could buy. I know you, but I have to be able to show it. And you need to come sharing it with me because I need to share it when you find that house.
And that's a red flag if they don't even want to.
Right. But as a newer agent, it was a little bit uncomfortable, especially a friend, my sister, one of my really good friend's sister. But after that.
But you're just doing your job. I mean,
that's right. I ask for it every time now.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, and I'm going to share. Anybody wants my stuff, I'm happy to share it. Definitely share it with you two immediately. And I want those videos, Sonia. In case you forgot. Anyway, thank y'all so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.